Okay, so I'm actually going to let this play all the way through before I address it.
We should be incredibly proud to be conservatives. Our party has done incredible things for this country, and we have a great story to tell. The fact of the matter is that conservatives built Canada. Until the 1960s, Canada was a conservative nation by history, culture, and tradition, and proudly so. Our conservative values guided our founders as they constructed a nation, built a railway, peopled the land, and fought 2 world wars. And as they did so, they were motivated and guided by words like faith, monarch, empire, and family. Today, precious little of that heritage remains in the popular conscience.
I fucking can't. I'm sorry. I have to stop it. Alright, so the first thing that kind of sticks out in terms of her whole weird, self-ingratiating conservative spiel on the state of Canada is her saying that conservative values drove our forefathers to build the country the way they did. And if you didn't know anything about Canadian history, you might think that I had some protest for that. But no, Candace is actually pretty based here. Our forefathers were wicked conservative. Sir John A. Macdonald is one of their favorites. Anyways, completely unrelated, but here he is before hanging Louis Riel and some of his followers in full view of the others to deliver a message. And he writes, "The executions of the Indians ought to convince the red man that the white man governs." He also says, "He shall die, though every dog in Quebec bark in his favor." Is that your guy? So I guess I really don't have any complaints in terms of Candace saying that our forefathers were conservative, because they were fucking terribly conservative. Thankfully, John A. Macdonald was racist to more than just the Indigenous. He also hated the Chinese people that came here to work, which is a great transition into the railroad comment. Thousands of Chinese workers died building the railroad for Canada. They were paid less than any other workers, they were worked harder than any other workers, they were extremely malnourished, and they were forced to do the majority of the dangerous work. There was a Chinese worker who died because they were doing a controlled explosion, and they failed to tell the Chinese workers they were doing it. And a rock went flying and killed a guy because they didn't bother to tell them. Our newspapers were incredibly racist to Chinese people. Like, does it sound at all familiar that our newspapers were accusing the Chinese of stealing our jobs? You know, even though they were getting blown up by fucking dynamite. Time is a flat fucking circle, especially when you're a conservative. Anyway, the last point that I wanted to get to, which isn't the most egregious one, but is still just gross, is all this talk about faith being what built our country. Because they automatically tie that into their faith being the faith of Canada. Your faith did not build Canada. It's not a core tenet of Canada. A core tenet of Canada is your right to practice that faith. Separation of church and state above all. Anyway, Candace is a fucking ghoul, isn't she?